I call to order tonight's February 19th, 2026 meeting of the Vallejo Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Will the secretary please call roll?
Okay, Chair McDonald,
Present.
Vice Chair Hall,
Present.
Commissioner Riley, Commissioner Adams,
Here.
Commissioner Chacon.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Alrighty, would somebody like to make we do not have a consent calendar item tonight. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Commissioner Riley moves we approve tonight's
Second.
agenda. Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, next, approval of the minutes. The recommendation is that someone make a motion to approve both the November 20th regular meeting and January 29th special meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Commissioner Hall moves.
Can I ask if we separate them? Because
Okay.
I wasn't here for the 20th, but so I could
Okay.
abstain from one and approve the other.
Okay. Commissioner Hall, would you like to modify your motion?
Yes, I motion that,
There, now talk. There,
There.
now.
I motion that we approve the minutes from the November 20th meeting.
Can I have a minute to review the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Can we amend that to add staff present, that I was present remotely? Because you didn't think I was here, but I was remote, and at the very end of the city attorney's report, you said, oh, she's not present, but I was like going to raise my hand because Manny had elevated me, but you didn't know I was present.
So with that information, then,
But Manny's not here, he's at the other meeting, but
yeah.
he
I mean, I'm just wondering.
want to put it off to another meeting? So
I'm
he
wondering
could-
if we just want to postpone this, have a
Sure.
motion, entertain a motion to postpone this item?
Sure.
And then we can review
Verify.
them in more detail?
Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. Commissioner Hall, would you like to revise your motion?
Yes, I recommend that we carry this on to our next meeting.
Okay. Anyone like to second? Commissioner
Second.
Riley seconds. It's like a game show today. All approved? Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay.
Report of the City Council Liaison. Peter was here earlier, but I believe is at the other meeting, so can we return to this item if he does come back to this meeting?
I don't see why we couldn't
Okay.
come back to it if he does show up.
I'm assuming he does not have a report, but we can address it if he comes. Community Forum, I don't think we have any online participants tonight, and we have no one present.
Through the chair, do not have any members of the public signed up for this item at this time.
Okay. We do not have a community forum this evening. No public hearing. Are there any written communications?
Yes, I just want to mention that we did receive today an email regarding 823 Marin Street. That project was held at the previous joint meeting with the Planning Commission and AHLC, and so that was sent to all of you via email this afternoon. And other than that, we did not have any written communications.
All right, then we can move forward with the report of the secretary.
Yes, all right, thank you. Just had a few updates to share with you. Happy to announce that we did have some updates to our planning webpage that's now live, and so we've added a few new features to it on the historic page of our planning webpage. We did add some links to the historic districts as well as some information about them, which also provides the list of all the resources in each district, so some pretty good information that's available to the public. We did also launch a interactive storyboard, which has all the different landmarks within the city and some information on each one. So you can look at a picture and it has a summary of it and the location and where it's at on the map. So it's a pretty nice feature for the public. So happy that we got that going as well. I think other than that, we will have a few items coming forward within the next couple of months, but no definitive dates yet. But we will have a few items here as we head into the spring, summertime. So. That concludes my report.
Quick question. Ravi, I had asked, and I haven't looked at the website most recently, but were you able to add a link on the page to this new list of landmark buildings, so that when you click on AHLC, as opposed to just city?
Oh,
city hall?
we, I apologize, we have not done that yet, but I will work with
thank you.
RRT to do that. Thank you. Yes.
All right, city attorney's report.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Report of chairperson and members of the commission. I do not have anything to report. Do any members have anything they'd like to report?
I do not.
Okay, no reports from members of the commission. And ad hoc subcommittees, would anybody like to report under their ad hoc subcommittee, which have gotten a little fractured, but.
I have none at this time.
Okay, no reports from ad hoc subcommittees. So then we'll move forward with our next item, which is discussing boards, commissions, committees assessment report and provide feedback to staff. How do you want to structure this? Do we have some guide rails?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't have a formal presentation, but I will go ahead and kind of introduce this and give a little bit of background. There was a report included in the packet. Hopefully you all had a chance to kind of look through that and review it. Basically how this came about was that in 2024, the City Council had commissioned an assessment report to be done to look at all of the different boards, commissions, and committees that the city has. There are quite a few. I think the report says there's 19, although I've heard different numbers, so there's quite a few of them, basically. So the report itself does not have any recommendations related to this particular commission. However, when the City Council initially was presented with this report, one of the things they noted that was missing was direct interviews and feedback from commissioners directly. So the next task was basically to have staff go to all the commissions. We have a list of questions that were included in the packet as well to kind of guide the discussion. So we're just looking to see if you have any general feedback that you would like to share, so we can write that down and then pass it along to City Council. Like I mentioned, we've got these 5 questions that were included in the packet. You don't need to, we don't need to have any concurrence and opinions on this, but if you just want to kind of share feedback related to these topics, then that would be helpful. So, Chair, if you want to maybe kick it off and help guide us through the questions.
Okay, should I pull them up in the packet?
Yeah, do you need a copy or?
If someone has a printed copy, otherwise I can pull them up. How will note-taking be done for this? Will it just be done from the recording later, or are we taking any notes now?
Well, I'll be taking notes, but
Okay.
We'll be able to record the meeting and we can watch it.
Okay.
We'll
Alrighty.
do both.
All right, so first question is, do you believe you have the necessary training and tools to help you be effective in your role? Maybe we'll just go this way on this question, and then we'll go that way on the next question, and just go down the row. You want to do it that way? Okay. Commissioner Riley.
So training tools, you mean just from my own experience or what I get from staff?
I mean, I would say both.
So staff is always, if I ever have a question, I always am able to easily get an answer, I feel, from someone. There's never any difficulty in doing that. And, and as for myself, I just, long association with historic aspects of Vallejo. I'm not an architect, but I've just come to learn a lot. A lot of it from owning an old house that I have to work on constantly. And so, yeah.
Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, I think I have had questions answered readily, so I have no problem with that.
I'd say my observation is, just from my personal background, though I'm not an architect, I have a background in engineering, and I worked in historic preservation for many years in a previous role. So I feel like I'm comfortable with the idea of historic preservation and the Secretary of the Interior standards and things. But I do think since I started being on this commission, there's less of an emphasis in training for us. Like, I know we used to go to the historic preservation conference and things like that. So I think there are fewer opportunities, whether it's because there isn't funding for them or whether we're just not encouraged to do them. I think there's less of an investment in training. And we used to be part of the certified local governments, and the certified local government thing had a requirement that we had to do a certain number of hours of training. And I remember we would share lists of low cost, no cost training that was available, through Secretary of the Interior or SHPO or something, and suggest that people could take some webinars to meet our certified local government requirements. I think it's been since COVID, some point in COVID, that we talked at all about the tracking we're supposed to do for being a certified local government. We're supposed to do outreach events, we're supposed to do training for ourselves, all those things. I don't know if we're still a certified local government. I don't think we've applied for a grant since that one that happened during COVID, but I do think there's a training component to that that's been neglected. I also think we used to get a lot more training about the Brown Act and just procedural things. And so I do also feel that for new commissioners, or even just to refresh people, I know when we have issues around something like the Brown Act that bubble up, we talk about doing training on it, but I don't think we get as much procedural training as we used to. So I think I'm comfortable with the training and the tools I have, but I think as we bring on, with having 2 vacancies, as we bring on new commissioners, I don't think they're getting what people used to get.
If I could.
Commissioner Riley.
Amend my comments a little bit. I agree with you on that. And we have the benefit of a lot of time on the commission, and we're comfortable with a lot of knowledge that we've sort of, got in our heads over time. But those webinars, for example, are free, and when they come up, they're always pretty informative. I forget what entity provided those, but.
Some of them are offered through the National Park Service, some are through SHPO, some were through California Preservation Foundation. There were a number of groups. CPF has a lot of free webinars and things like that. So.
And if we keep track of those, and they are free and they're really informative. I know I took advantage of one to get historical analysis of my own house from an expert on houses, and it just, anyway.
All right, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to agree with you also, Chair McDonald. But anyways, I would say with mine, it's more of a personal preference and personal intrigue.
Commissioner Chacon.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree with what you said as well. And I'm new, maybe have been here a year and a half. And when I applied for this commission, I dove into architectural heritage and landmarks, everything I could read about Vallejo and this job or this seat. And I taught myself and I learned like what this is all about. And so I feel like I'm a quick learner, and again, like I think Commissioner Hall just said, the passion, what you're interested in, drives your ability to think and do the right thing in this role. So with that said, do I feel equipped? Yeah, I think I can do a good job here. Do I think there should be more resources maybe provided by the city of like, here's your links, here's your laws, here's the things that you can like really reference and lean on and tools? Yeah, I think maybe we could provide more of that for us.
All right, are there any commissioners that want to add anything under 1B, which is what, if anything, would make you more effective? I think most of us touched on something there, and we just rolled that in. All right, next question. Do you feel the topics that your commission oversees are easily understandable, focused, and reflects the work you do? Start this way.
You want to start down this way? Again, I think that came with learning. We were just talking earlier, we had that joint commission with our AHLC and the planning. And I wanted to have so many comments about the planning side of it. And I'm like, that's not my job. Just the stuff that AHLC oversaw was this job. So a year ago, I would have been talking all over the place about everything that night. And then now knowing what my purview is, yeah, I think I'm learned and thoughtful enough that I know the purview of my role. So yes.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes, based on that question, absolutely. One simple word, absolutely.
Can I ask to make sure everyone is really speaking into the microphone, because we're going to have to go back and listen. I want to make sure it's picking everything up.
And it's fair to ask us to repeat if we think we were, but we weren't. I mean, I guess the one thing I would say about this is that, I kind of wonder what we don't review. I know the projects we review, and I think we sometimes see things that come through at the staff level. I don't know that we know everything that gets approved at a staff level. I don't know that we, whether or not we need to, but it would at least help us have a sense of what else is happening or getting approved or things. But I mean, I think it's clear what we're here to do. I just wonder if there are other things that we should be aware of.
Just for clarification, are you referring to other like historical?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to
projects?
know every permit that comes across the permit desk. I mean, I'm just thinking of like, there was a timeout at Mare Island where a permit came through to do some repair work on the roof of the admin building, and it was approved as just an over-the-desk staff level permit. Like, okay, you're going to make some repairs. The roof's leaking. Great. We need to keep the roof waterproof. Go ahead and make the repairs. And it turned into a dump truck pulling up to the admin building, and they basically stripped the entire slate roof off the building and threw it in a dumpster without this commission even knowing about that. And in the end, it was like, well, you got a staff level permit to repair leaking roof, and you took that and you expanded it to ripping off all the historic materials and replacing them with non-historic materials. And they compromised and they put on like a faux slate material on the front and things. But I only learned about it because somebody observed it and said, you should see what's going in a dump truck out at Mare Island. And then, I think there's there's just that question of, I mean, even with like the flagpole, there were some things where it was like, you know, we did not get a straight, and I'm not trying to use this opportunity as soapbox, but I'm just saying, we did not get a straight answer about the removal of the flagpole. And then it was like, you know, the next morning they're out there removing the flagpole. In the end, justifiably, I mean, it was like chocolate pudding inside, but it was good to see that. But I mean, people stood here straight-faced and told us at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. there were no plans to remove it, and at 8 a.m. they were out there taking it down. So I just, if that's where this goes, I think on our topic, there could be on occasion, more transparency.
Thank you for that clarification. I will add that I believe for director level approvals, we do email notices to the commissioners, so hopefully you're getting those okay. Perhaps we can talk about maybe adding that information as part of the secretary update during the meetings as well, just to make sure it's kind of out in the public forum. Some of those items are really like code enforcement type issues, though, where we just can't really foresee that kind of thing happening until after the fact and it gets caught. And then the other thing I'll mention too, one of the comments from the Planning Commission is that they were interested in being a little bit like being brought along with the process for bigger long-range projects. And I think something like that could be helpful for this group, particularly with regard to like the Mare Island specific plan and then the downtown specific plan, because we do have a lot of historic properties in these areas. So, you know, if we start, you know, doing those updates for Planning Commission, maybe we can, you know, carry that forward here as well. So thank you for that comment.
Commissioner Adams.
I have a comment to that, sorry. And I think it relates to the next question number 3, about having defined goals in a work plan. Like maybe if there was a work plan of all the things that either the commission oversees or doesn't oversee, at least there's a box that checked of everything, so there's transparency for folks in saying this was code enforcement, the commission didn't need. So thinking about a work plan that way, because I've been trying to rack my brain, how would a work plan help us? But I think it might in that regard.
Commissioner Adams.
I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Riley.
Well, yeah, the idea of, even if it's just a matter of adding us on an email list, a matter of pushing a button so that on these unrelated things that seemingly are unrelated, but we'd still have them have a sense of what's going on in planning and things like that that might affect or be near a historic district. Yeah, why not?
All right, back to you, Commissioner Riley. Do you believe having defined goals in a work plan would help your commission be more effective?
Yeah, I do think that would be helpful. I think, I know, as you mentioned earlier, we've talked about things that have sort of gone, you know, gone quiet as, you know, different leadership in city comes and goes, and that 3 years of the, you know, when everything got really quiet. There is one, well, we can talk about specifics later, but I guess that's it.
Commissioner Adams.
Work plans as far as what we do and our goals here, or which ones are you talking about? Which plans are you talking about?
Well, what the report recommends is that each commission have 3 to 5 goals that they document in a work plan, and that the consultant's going to create a template that they're suggesting goes to each commission. And I mean, that's the proposal in the report, is that we will create goals that we will put into a work plan, and that I believe twice annually commissions will make updates on their work plan to the city council.
Through the chair, if I could maybe jump in. I don't think this commission has historically had a work plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is kind of one of those unique commissions where you're actually making decisions on projects, quasi-judicial decisions. So it's a little bit different than some of the other advisory commissions. So the type of work you're doing is mostly focused on reviewing project proposals. So there's probably not a lot to put into a work plan. However, there definitely are some things, related to like training opportunities or information that you would, like to see presented to the commission. So there are things that could be added, but it probably won't be as broad of a scope as some other commissions.
Though I would offer that while we have not had anything that was called a work plan, in my tenure, we've had 2 goal-setting sessions. So the first was a closed goal-setting session. That's the first one I participated in. Commissioner Riley may know if there were more, but we met at Mare Island, and we had a meeting where the commission met and set a number of internal goals for ourselves. And then a few years after that, we had a public goal-setting meeting that was actually facilitated by a consultant that was held out at the little building at the Tennessee Street Bridge. And we came away with, I think our goals, many of us had worked together a little bit more at that point, and I think because there was a consultant that came in and helped facilitate it, what I would now call like a SMART goal, so something that, is actually actionable, it's relevant, it's timely, all those things. I think the consultant helped us come away with a better set of SMART goals after the second goal-setting meeting, but then those all fell apart. So, we had, as I remember them, one of the goals was that we wanted to look at doing something similar to what Sacramento does, which is where we would, if a property came up that was more than 50 years old and might be eligible for some historic status, even if it did not already have that, it would come to this commission. And so that was one proposal, and then we wanted to start to do some initial work about looking at like the permit applications that had come through in, say, a period of 2 to 3 years, to look to see how many of those properties were more than 50 years old and might have been eligible to try and establish the workload. But we kind of hit a brick wall, and we were told, well, you'd have to submit like a Sunshine Act request to get access to those records to even start the process of determining what that workload would add for this commission, and particularly being sensitive, what would that idea add to the secretary and the staff's work if every project that was more than 50 years old came here automatically as though it were recognized. So that was one of the goals. Another one of the goals was like street sign toppers in the historic district. Brendan, I don't know if you remember, I think that we left with like 4 goals. Those are the 2 that really stuck in my mind. So, that was like, especially that first project, that was, that would potentially be a kind of significant amount of work. We also always have ad hoc committees, which have kind of we haven't really been able to maintain just because we've had turnover. But, we used to do an award. So we gave an award each year that was handed out with the historic home tours. So, we had things we did beyond just reviewing the projects that came in front of us. And those things have they didn't maintain their momentum through COVID.
Those all sound great.
So, yes, in a nutshell, I think having a work plan, in addition to things like what we could do for ourselves for education and things like that, I think a work plan with some other goals would be good. Commissioner Hall.
Yes, I agree. Goals lead to, you strive when you're setting goals. You strive towards goals. And, of course, once you reach those goals, that's, ultimately the betterment. So, yes, I agree.
Commissioner Chacon.
Yeah, I liked everything you said. I liked everything the chair said. I just want to reiterate again, I do think that list of work that we may not see in the concern before, having some sort of log, if it's not a work plan, might be very beneficial. So I think we should think about that. I do, like you said, the work plan of like resources and tools for learning, I think is beneficial. I am on the ad hoc subcommittee for goals, and we've never done anything. And I think it's one of those things you either sit up here and do your job, or you don't have that time to sit in a room with people and do those things. I think they're important, and I would love to do that. I just never have known how to. So if we get traction, I'm willing to continue to do that.
And I think we intentionally held off on that effort pending this report because we knew it would comment on the goal setting. Do you feel that your recommendations, if any, flow through to the city council?
Yes.
Do you feel your recommendations, if any, flow through to the city council?
It's me, right? Yes, you. So I'm going to say yes. There was one that went to city council, and I think it was held up and upheld and everything. So short answer, yes.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
I don't know that we very often had items. I think we talked about the need to update. I wrote down the word ordinances, but I don't think they're ordinances. It's like the thing that where we thought we approved things that are visible from like streets, but it got the word right of way and
Ordinance, that's.
okay.
Yeah.
Many times we've talked about, especially when we've been concerned about people who are in here paying very exorbitant fees for very, very small things. We've talked about the need to look at and update those ordinances. I honestly don't know that that's ever been escalated to the city council to consider partnering in what the effort that would take to make those revisions, but I think that's one thing for us to file away when we talk about goal setting, because as we think about affordability and the cost to live in Vallejo and the pressure I think some of those things put on people doing undocumented, unpermitted work in order to avoid some of the costs, I think that's one to put a pin in for our goal setting. Commissioner Adams.
Well, I remember there was one goal, one recommendation that we were unanimous about, and that was in regards to the Herbert House, that it shouldn't be moved. And the council went ahead and said that it could be moved. So that was in one instance where we were ignored by the city council, our recommendation.
Commissioner Riley.
Well, adding to what you commented about the ordinance changes and that sort of thing, I know raising the issue of street view, as we now have it, it includes alleys. I disagree with that. And I understand alleys on the corners maybe, but I always felt the role of the the national standards were basically the idea of somebody driving down the street, being the main street, the main thoroughfare, as opposed to an alley access. It has been interpreted more broadly, and we had a couple of cases where one in particular, a guy on York Street who put in a deck, and the fees were more than the materials for his deck, and he lived on an alley that was in such bad shape it would take a four-wheel drive at a minimum to get through it, honestly. That alley has craters in it, still does. But the point being that it really causes evasion if somebody is faced with a quite large fee for a minor job, and a job that really is not visible to most of the driving public. And I realize that may not get anywhere, but I still really feel it's important to be realistic and in the process encourage people to come forward with their projects.
I'll just jump in to offer a real quick response on that. I think staff agrees with those comments, and we have plans to fold in that update work with our next phase of the zoning code updates. So that work has been stalled a little bit because there have been a lot of other high priorities. But basically the next phase is focusing on the procedures section of the zoning code, which includes this topic you're talking about. So definitely that will be rolled in, and we're hopefully in 2026 we'll get that in front of City Council.
We're also, I mean, might as well we're also concerned with having all of these joint meetings because we have this procedures in the code where you issue a certificate of appropriateness, but other development entitlements have to go to a different body, and we can't elevate, like the Planning Commission can't issue a certificate of appropriateness. But we don't want appeals to be, segregated in any way, staggered. So we're trying to figure out a way, like there is a way for the director to issue a certificate of appropriateness for certain projects. And then, but it made more sense to have these joint meetings, and we're going to have to continue to do that until we figure out a way to do this. Maybe we make your certificate of appropriateness still required, but it advisory, so it's not appealable.
It could turn into like a recommendation,
So
with
that
the planning
there isn't
commission
an
taking final
So
action.
it doesn't have to be, the timing isn't quite so, you don't have to have the joint meeting. I mean, you still have to get it. You still have to go through, you can't not get the entitlement without the certificate of appropriateness recommendation, but it's just not. Anyway, we could put that on an agenda, on a future agenda, if you want to vote on that.
I mean,
If I could comment on that,
yeah, Commissioner Riley.
I would really oppose that. The reason, a significant reason for the creation of this commission was sort of in the process of redevelopment, the destruction of some significant landmarks. The Women's Club, the Julia Morgan Women's Club, our great old library. Pardon?
That was destroyed?
They bulldozed over 500 buildings in this immediate downtown area and adjacent side streets
Oh, wow.
as part of redevelopment from 1960 to 1970. It was a huge project. It was
Wow.
very ambitious. There was a lot of federal money that made it doable. Two federal dollars for every local dollar, and it happened all over the country. Our landmark, in the wake of all of that, there was this, again, a national movement for historic commissions. And we came up with ours, and it had this decision-making function built into it, and that's where it came from. I feel that historically there was thinking that there was a real need for that, so that we don't go tearing down things again on that scale, maybe. But anyway, I know what you're talking about. This planning, the combined meeting that we had the other day was really interesting. We were sort of all over the map. And we on the Landmark Commission were asking questions that really were up to the Planning Commission to ask, and everybody was asking everything. But there is a way of lining out what we talk about in a combined meeting, so that we talk about certain things, planners talk about others. But I really am an advocate for keeping our status as making a decision that is appealable.
Oh, I'll just add, we could have a topic where we brainstorm how to do this better, how to make a better meeting, or we just do it so many times that everyone gets the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there's even, not to problem solve here, I know that's not what tonight's about, but, could it have been a two-phase thing where, there's deliberations as separate commissions but no vote or something, and then a shared deliberation and the voting happens at the same time? But then just all the questions maybe get out of the way in the first informational meeting, but there's no action to take. It's just separate information gathering meetings. Okay, next question. I forget which direction we're headed. Well, just Commissioner Chacon, do you feel
Sure.
that consolidation of boards, commissions, and committees with overlapping focuses would be a positive step?
I just think you would have to be very thoughtful about which boards or commissions that you would want to combine. If I think about the meeting that we had with AHLC and the Planning Commission, I feel like the AHLC stuff would probably fall by the wayside if they tried to combine them. So those are two I would not combine. I just feel that's in my heart. So if there's other ones that you feel are combined because they seem to go together, sure, absolutely. I'm all for efficiency and doing things better. But at the loss of something, I think is the big question you need to ask when you do that. And if there's a loss, then no.
Commissioner Hall.
I'd have to disagree. And my reason for this is because all the commissions are so different. So I would have to say I disagree.
I mean, I know one of the examples was, for instance, possibly, I mean, the most extreme measure in the report was possibly dissolving the McCune Commission and reverting the decisions regarding the McCune to to either the library or like the Naval History Museum. I don't know if that commission has 7 people or, okay. But I mean, like that, I thought that was a good example of like convening 7 commissioners to make decisions regarding the McCune collection does seem heavily administrative, but it is, it is also an important collection, so it shouldn't go unadministered. So whether it becomes, part of another commission that still has oversight and still focuses on it, I think it's a question of balance. You don't want it to just be lost and suddenly before we know it, that collection's gone and unaccounted for. But on the other hand, do 7 people need to meet regarding that collection? And could those 7 people be used and their effort be used somewhere? I like the idea of the smaller commissions. And I mean, this one, I think, given some of the, planning this commission, I don't know that they need to be smaller, but some of the ones with other perhaps smaller issues or more repetitious work, I'm not concerned that all commissions have to be 7 people or that they couldn't be combined. Selectively and done strategically. Commissioner Adams.
I have no comment about it.
Commissioner Riley.
So I expressed my thoughts already on this commission. It's interesting, though, I read the one also for the McCune collection, and if it went to the museum, I was on the museum board, I think the museum would take it on, but it is a separate entity, a nonprofit. If space was made available by the city for the collection, as they now make a very fair, really good deal for the rent on City Hall, that enables that museum to operate. And if there was space provided, as it is now in a city building for the McCune collection, I kind of think that the museum might be willing to take it on because that's what they do, and in their with other things, and that seems like a possibility, and it would shrink the number of commissions that don't do a whole lot, although it would be difficult to tell that to members of the McCune Commission. I know they have events, they have book sales, they have speakers, they do try to keep going. But the Vallejo Museum does all those same things.
I do have one other comment I would like to say, and I want to be thoughtful about the city's employees, all the administrative efforts that go into running a city, and we're just part of these commissions that do the jobs that we're doing. If there's a way to make that more efficient and is in line with what I said before, I think it should be done. I think it should operate better, leaner, and if that helps them do that, I think that they should try.
All right, and I think we've covered the question, do any changes to boards, commissions, or committees with overlapping focus, do any examples specifically come to mind? I think those of us who have specific examples have shared them, but if anyone has any specific examples, just let me know if you have something more to add. Okay. Does that, to everyone's satisfaction, conclude item 10? I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to provide the feedback.
Thank you for the feedback. This is really a helpful conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
And with that, does anybody want to move to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Could I ask
Oh.
one more thing?
Okay.
And this is what we also encountered with the use of outside what were they? Anyway, consultants who would added greatly to the cost of individual applications, because we don't have an architectural historian, I guess that's the phrase or the terminology, on staff. And if there is a way to, there are retired architects around town. You know, I know one in particular. There are people who would probably do it pro bono, and that would maybe cut into some fees for people who do that for a living. But if there's a way of finding that, it would be one significant way of cutting down costs of individual applicants who have projects.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. I think that is a concern, and we've been trying to pull back on that a little bit where we can. Another thing I think that may help and make sense in the future is that if we could actually set up some design guidelines that are specific to the historic district, so staff would have some guidelines to follow that we could just check projects against more easily, and we wouldn't need to contract with a historian for each and every single project. So that's something that I'm particularly interested in pursuing if and when we can.
And I can't recall the specifics of, I thought there was a report that was done during COVID. There was a grant and there was a report, and I thought that report started to touch on design guidelines, but does anyone remember exactly what that report covered? So it's like, well, I'll sit around the campfire and tell stories. During COVID, the city had an opportunity to apply for a CLG matching grant. And because the commission wasn't meeting because of COVID and things like that, there was a staff level decision made what to do with that grant. And I thought that money went to starting to research the foundations of how we would go about creating design guidelines for the historic districts.
I'm actually not aware of that grant. I
Okay.
haven't seen that in anything, but we can take a look and see.
Okay.
I have a couple things. I think that we were going to revisit number 5, the report from the City Council Liaison, which I don't think is probably here. So that's number 1.
Nope, he's not here.
Okay, we can pass.
Through the chair, he's still currently at this meeting that I'm.
Okay. 2, I wanted to recommend, and I saw it from our last meeting, is that your number 2 button lights up your microphone as green if you want to talk. And I saw it in the city council meeting, and I would like us to do our best to try to use that. It helps with the dialogue. So I've been trying to do that a lot. And then 3, I move that we adjourn.
Just while we're here, can you show me that? I'm going to pretend that I'm looking at Robbie and the TV, and. But the thing that's.
Maybe the yes is maybe.
Okay, so it shows up on the request list.
Yours should show on the yes button to the right.
I mean, is that cool? I'm not trying to be anything, but
Through the chair, so rather than interrupting you constantly, we would just turn our lights on green and you call on us.
Yeah, then I could just look at the request list instead of having to do this. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it just really helps. I saw it in the city council meeting. I was like, oh, that's what that's for. So yeah,
I know, yeah.
just think it's
Through the
really
chair,
respectful
what that
too.
also does is it lists the speaker's requests in
It-
order,
oh,
so that
great.
way you don't select anybody to speak prior to the other.
Okay.
Okay,
Can I
I
have a
move that
mo-
we adjourn.
Can I have okay, we have a motion to adjourn this evening. Would anyone like to second? Yes. Commissioner Adams seconds. All in favor? Aye.